All right, everyone, welcome back to the Off the Tools podcast with your hosts, Jimmy Hong and Joshua Grunborg. Today we have a lovely special guest of the name of Abbi Fenik. Abbi, welcome to the pod. Maybe start off here, just maybe introduce yourself a little bit, how long you've been in the industry, and just help the viewers get to know you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, guys. My name is Abby, and I am the owner-operator of Lake Simcoe Painters in Aurelia. Been at it for 3 years now, so it's been a great experience so far.
Awesome. So you've been in the industry for 3 years now. Crazy, crazy mindset shift. What was it like from year one to year three in the way that you approached the business? And maybe what was like the big things that kind of changed for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my first year, I went on with like a hands-on, like very hands-on approach.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to have my hand in every single aspect of the business. A bit of a control freak in that area, and noticed that that tends to kind of limit the growth of the business.
Sure.
I can't, be in seven places at one time or what have you. So really important to kind of develop the team over the years. And now I've been able to kind of take a step back, trust my team, and really just develop leaders within my business that I trust so that, yeah, allows me a little bit more sanity. So, yeah.
Sanity is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
My goodness.
hmm
Okay, so develop your team. How many painters do you have right now? And do you have a production manager? I believe you do.
I do, yeah, absolutely. So about eight painters running right now, and a product manager as well. My younger brother actually, so he's a
Wow.
great hard worker. So been with me for the 3 years, and obviously trust him immensely. So yeah, it's really great.
You may or may want not want this online, but here we go. I'll ask you the question anyways. How do you find it is working with family, and like how do you make that work?
Yeah, it's definitely has its challenges. I think one of the things that we've really noticed that we need for our relationship is just kind of have like designated work times and then
Mm-hmm.
family times. I think when the wires get crossed, that's kind of where we tend to kind of get on each other's case. So just like setting those meetings, having those designated kind of work times, and then being able to kind of set it aside and move forward. We also live together, so it can
Mm-hmm.
be yeah, it can be a lot at times. We're always kind of around each other, so just kind of, setting those boundaries and staying between them.
Nice. I love it. In terms of, we hear it all the time, right? Like people is like, oh, family, I won't even let my family touch my business. Other people are like, no, it's the best thing ever. One of the things
Yeah.
we always notice is it comes from a lot of expectation setting. So how did
Mhm.
that kind of play a role when, especially it's your brother, and you're employing him into your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the transition really happened, I guess, in my second year. He was a painter for me in our first year, and then really stepped up into that production manager role. So setting those expectations, making sure that kind of we both know um, what task is under whose umbrella, so that again those wires don't get crossed. We can't kind of point fingers, and so making it very clear, this is what you need to do on a weekly kind of daily basis, and this is kind of what I'm in charge of, so that everything gets taken care of. And yeah, there's no
Wow.
yeah.
I like it. And this is a tough question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
If he wasn't your brother, would you still have promoted him to production manager?
Wow.
I think honestly, yeah, I think he's a great fit for the role. I really love just like his interaction with the painters and the clients kind of alike. So, no, I think he's really come into his own as well throughout the years, and really just happy to see him kind of take those next steps. So, yeah.
Nice. I know it was a heated question, so if he ever
Yeah.
hears this, but yeah, I think it's really one of those things where it's like when you're looking for a production manager, project manager, and just so happened it was your brother. What were you
Yeah.
looking for in terms of finding that painter to promote to like a higher position like a project manager?
Yeah. I think really what I looked for is just somebody who's willing to go like the extra mile. Can take a step back and understand, what needs to be done, and, stepping up and taking those kind of hard conversations, maybe the difficult, parts of the project, really just stepping up and yeah, being able to be that person in the times of challenge, I think is really the most important thing that I'm looking for. Um, and again, who can just have those conversations, make sure that everybody's on the same page. I think he's really good at just bringing everybody together, and a big part of our culture in the company. So
Hmm.
that's you know something he's really great at.
Mm-hmm. Your brother is obviously one thing, and it's awesome that you found, a person that was able to fill the shoes of that role. Because obviously, I mean, you've seen it. You talk to franchise owners too, and most of them can't even find good painters. Never mind a good production manager.
Yeah.
How did you go about maybe looking for people that are leaders in your business besides your production manager? Because like everyone always thinks of like a leader as in terms of production manager, like that's leader, but it's like no, like sometimes that's the crew chief in the painting squad. So
Yeah.
how do you go about like talking to someone within that maybe squad and being like, hey, like you should really step up here and we want to make it worth it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have some returning painters as well, and kind of like the more crew chief role being really fulfilled this year. And again, I've honestly found that through our network, we've been able to hire a lot of those key players. So, I've trusted their character from, years in advance before even bringing them onto the team. And then just really seeing them kind of step into those roles. Again, kind of tackle those harder challenges and really just put their best foot forward every single day. They're also really great at just making sure, again, everybody's on the same page, helping to train, and tips and tricks for all the other painters on the site. And that's something that we really look out for and, really appreciate in the business.
I love it. For those of you listening, to give away, little bits of Abby's personal life here. Abby just came back from Croatia, actually, during when her painting company was running. So how did you, I guess, manage to set everything up so that it's like everything can be running? You're in a different time zone, you
Yeah.
know. What was that like? What conversation was that maybe like with the production manager and maybe even the painters?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think it just comes down to that like trust element, and making sure that everybody kind of knows what tasks, they generally have to do. My production manager had to step into a bit of my role as well, just making sure that every, base was covered, but really just making sure that, I'm doing my due diligence on my end and, have everything set up for them for success. And then again, everybody kind of knows which lanes that they're filling to be able to, have that successful week while I'm away with very limited contact, which was really great. So,
Limited, but never nothing.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
When it comes to Abbi Fenik walking to a house for an estimate, everyone has their own secret sauce. Everyone has their own secret flair that they put on. When you walk into a client's door, you got the estimate scheduled. What's in the air? What are we doing? What tactics are we employing for you?
Yeah, I think some of the main ones for me are really just like the know, like, trust thing. And again, comes down
Mm-hmm.
to the trust element. I want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and then the client knows that, we are the best person to kind of tackle that job.
Mm-hmm.
And that I, genuinely do feel that and we're kind of working together towards that outcome. So, that's kind of how I go into these meetings with clients and even stepping onto job sites. That's kind of what I'm looking to, bring to the table.
Are you the kind of gal that's more like heavy on the rapport side and then like also, but like, this is what we're doing? Or are you the like, this is why you need Dulux Diamond because of the microspheres that are expanding during
Yeah,
summer and winter? Or are you like kind of the combination of the both?
I think a combination of the both for sure. I think it starts, very like heavy on the rapport side, get to know the client, understand really like why we're here, how we can kind of help them. And then again, like a very extensive kind of thorough walk around of, this is kind of what our process looks like. This is how you can expect us to show up and complete this project from start to finish. Just so that again, everybody's on the same page and yeah, we really just know what we're kind of walking into on both ends there.
Totally. I'm not sure if you noticed, Abby, but the national average for painting contractors when they go to an estimate is 25% close rate, typically.
Yeah.
Brutal.
She Abby laughs. But what's your close rate again for this year?
I think this year's probably sitting around 80% at this moment. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Mhm.
so if I'm listening, I'm going, what the hell is Abby doing in order to get to an 80% close rate? Say I'm sitting at a 25% close rate and I want to bring myself to a 50%
Yeah.
close rate. What would I do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the main, steps even before you show up to that estimate is really just qualifying those leads, and making sure that, everybody's on the same page, really with what we call, that 8 point call, making sure that we're kind of going through reviewing, what the client wants to get done, why they're really after getting this project done, what the timeline looks like, making sure they're kind of ready to go and, um, prepared to kind of make those decisions, and really just have that need to kind of fulfill that painting project throughout the summer, so that we're all kind of on the same page when we're kind of at that estimate, working together to kind of figure out really just the logistics of how we're going to get it done and, walk everybody through what that process looks like.
What I'm about to ask, I feel like is a little bit counterintuitive to a lot of people, and I think you're gonna hit me with the answer that I think you're gonna say, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. What do you think is more important in that kind of sales process? Do you think it's that setup call when I'm giving you a call saying, "What's up, Mary Sally? How are you?" Or
Hmm.
is it the shaking their hand? "What's up, Mary Sally?"
Yeah. I think it really just starts at that call, making sure that
Hmm.
they, again, know, like, and trust you at the beginning of that call to then welcome you into their home and you kind of go through the estimate process at that point. But I think it really just starts also too, like at the door, the initial phone call, all that kind of stuff really sets you up for success, and for that close at the end. So,
Hmm. No, totally. Now, for the first, I think, 2 years of your business, you did primarily door to door, yeah, for most of your
right.
leads.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I was on a call earlier today with one of our clients, and he's just now implementing door to door into his business. He's hitting me with things like, yeah, like I'm gonna go out and like I hope it works. Like I think it's gonna work, and I'm telling him like, like it's gonna work. Like if you actually put in the time. If you had to tell someone that's again just started this week, again, this guy, and he'll probably listen to this. This guy just starting this week. What
Yeah.
would you tell him when you're knocking on doors? What's the best advice you'd be giving someone?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really just to keep going and it's really a numbers game at the end of the day. We kind of talk about like the four aces in the deck, could be at the beginning of your day, could be at the end of the day, or could be really in between your session there. So just, not getting discouraged. You will face, rejection, and every no is just closer to a yes. So keep going, and yeah, you're bound to find some, diamonds in the rough out there. So
Let's go. I love that. Like the four aces in a deck, it's great. Sometimes it's at the very end, sometimes you get them all at the beginning. That's awesome. In
mhm.
terms of like even because you were so door to door heavy with it, how did it really seem to you in terms of transitioning from like, bringing door to door and also even Facebook ads and adding that another like fishing pole into your business there? What was that like?
Yeah, 100%. I think it really, first of all, just allowed me to step back a little bit more, and kind of take like a little bit of a hands-off approach this year. We do have a steady lead flow coming in thanks to you guys, which is amazing. So, I know that each week we're kind of set up for success, already as like a baseline, and then everything that comes on top of that is kind of just like the icing on top of the cake. So, whether that be like the next door neighbor or, the door-to-door leads, all that kind of stuff, referrals, I already am confident that we're going to be able to like hit our targets and then some. So that's kind of what, it's just given us confidence in terms of really like the sales and the front end of everything, throughout the summer. So
Nice. That's a powerful answer. I love it. In terms of even like, yeah, it sounds like you get a nice baseline and then you add on top of it, like you said, multiple different ways, like next door neighbor marketing, everything. Even with like Facebook, like what do you think you're doing that's just getting you the results and being able to, even book those estimates, book those jobs with the Facebook side of things? What's your process when even like a new lead comes in from Facebook?
yeah, absolutely. I think, and we've talked about this before, but really just that speed to lead is super important. Odds are when people are kind of looking around on the internet and they kind of come across your ad, they're probably signing up for a couple different things. So you want to make sure that you're kind of getting to them, very quickly, and are able to kind of address those concerns immediately and really just kind of follow your process from there. But again, yeah, just touching base with them immediately. We've said like 15 minutes even, and if you can get to them within the 15-minute range, or like an hour or two, just that day is kind of like my like, minimum acceptable standard. Just making sure that, we've reached out, they know that we're kind of, there for them and kind of just following from there.
Love it.
Did you ever get? I know when I was running Facebook ads for my business, I would show up to the estimate, and then knock on the door, knock, 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 and then they'd open the door and they'd be, "You're the person from the ad. Did you get that ever?"
Yes. Oh,
You
yes.
did.
All the time. Yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely something to that too, and I can't like obviously necessarily equate it, but I think it must be similar in some regard to like they've seen you before. They've heard your voice
Mhm.
before, but it's like now you're here. And like I think that was like one of the advantages that obviously like I really liked with door to door because I was like it's like I've met you before.
Yeah.
Like we talked like last week when we scheduled this estimate or whatever. But
Yeah.
I felt like there definitely was like that tiny bit of like you know me, but I don't necessarily know you yet thing
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think even like with the initial calls that I'm getting, like some people are just like, we've called you because we really liked your ad. We think you're very trustworthy just based on, the video that we've seen. And so that's why we want to have you out. So even like before I even show up, that's kind of the effect that it's had on them, which I think is super positive. So yeah.
Totally. Um, Jamie and I was listening to your ad. I don't know. I think like a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
yeah.
We really like your ad. You did a really good job in
Yeah.
your ad, and we're like, oh, like why is Abby's ad do like so good? Um, you ever watch that YouTube show? Maybe you ever hear like Watch Mojo?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Your voice is like Watch
Blew
Mojo,
my mind.
guys.
Yeah. Blew my mind.
It's like soothing on the ears, and we're like, oh, like okay, like maybe this has something to do with the
There you
success
go.
that Abby's having.
Yeah, seriously. And honestly, just for the heck of it, like, can you just say welcome to Watch Mojo?
Can try. I don't know if it's going to come out exactly right, but welcome to Watch Mojo. Watch
Oh
Mojo.
my god! If you practiced it for a week, don't worry, we'll do another pod in like a couple
I can
months or
figure it
so.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll do it from there. You're gonna be wrapping up your season, I'd say probably like fairly soon. This in the grand scheme of things, especially with like preseason and like actually producing your projects, like you're at the tail end of things. What are you keeping in mind in terms of having a clean finish?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's a great question. I think it's really just a matter of, um, again, following up too with leads that we had, making sure that, we've kind of done a clean sweep of everybody that we've kind of come in contact with, at least in terms of like the front end and the sales and everything like that. Making sure that everybody who wants to get a project done, has had that opportunity. And then just again, making sure that the team's on the same page. It's really great production wise. Again, even having returning painters, everyone's really on the same page. It's a little bit easier to produce that work now in terms of training. And yeah, no, super excited to kind of get things wrapped up and get everybody back to school and move on to the next
Mm-hmm.
season. So yeah,
No, totally. I feel like a lot of business owners, like especially towards the end of the season here, I hear like, I need touch ups here. I need to pick up equipment from there. How do you stay organized and not keep what I feel like most people have in terms of just loose ends everywhere?
yeah, 100%. I think what's really helpful for us is just like designating a person on each, crew who is responsible for those materials, and having them understand, obviously, some of the equipment that we use is can definitely, be pricey if we need to be replacing. So, we want to make sure
Mhm.
that we're keeping tabs on everything. If there's extra materials that we're bringing to particular job sites, my production manager is kind of taking care of those kind of things. But in terms of really crew kits and throughout the entire summer, just making sure we're designating that responsibility to an individual and they're taking care of that. So
So let's say Johnson now has forgot the 901 back at the job, or just like didn't clean the brushes. I feel like what a lot of even just leaders struggle with is like having obviously like that difficult conversation where it's, let's be real, it's a minor inconvenience if I have to replace a brush, if I have to replace a 901. It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, you lose the 901 this day, you lose the 901 next week. How do you
yeah,
go about maybe attacking those tiny things that start before they escalate into bigger issues?
yeah, 100%. I think mainly it's just having them understand. It's really a conversation and having them understand like maybe how that's impacting them. It's a minor inconvenience to me and my production manager to have to kind of run around or replace these certain items, but how does that reflect? on their day to day. Is that setting them back another 30 minutes and they could have, been working to kind of get the job done sooner and being compensated with that piece rate a little bit better in that end. So kind of just having them understand those impacts and how it kind of impacts them more so than how it's kind of reflecting to me, to have them kind of understand and move forward. It's more organized.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, and that's the weird thing, right? It's like you can have those conversations, with your employees, but then it not always be even well received. But I feel like ultimately, like that's maybe something on the front end when it comes to hiring, because that's like realistically a character issue, not even necessarily a system issue. So, what are you
Yeah.
looking for when you are hiring people? Like, I feel like a lot of people in the industry are like, I want the best painter on the goddamn planet. But it's like
Yeah.
maybe you just need a good person.
Yeah. 100%. I think, not to say like personality hire is kind of what we're looking for, but coachability and somebody who is like willing to put their best foot forward, wants to continue to learn. I look for a lot of like athletes too. I think like the hard work, discipline, teamwork kind of
Hmm.
aspect of just growing up with that is really helpful and does kind of reflect in, people's character and work ethic. So that's definitely something that I keep an eye out for when we're, recruiting for our team.
That's very smart. Especially like I feel like we hear it all the time too. Like there's a lot of contractors that are like there's no one out there, right? Can't hire anybody. On top of that, it's like nobody has like that 10 years of experience. But we don't really look for that, right? Not in our businesses, not in yours. What would you
Yeah.
tell those contractors out there, those painters that are like trying to like just absolutely find like a super experienced guy versus someone with a good attitude that's coachable that you can actually teach them how to paint?
Yeah, I think it's really just a matter of like spending the time with these like people to train them the way that you want to see them kind of perform. Again, you could have like a star painter come into your business, but if they're not doing things the way that you would like them to be done, there is some more attention to detail that needs to be paid there too. So, having somebody who is really coachable, receptive to like feedback is almost a better cause when you're going to be there training them initially and you just want to make sure that they're going to follow the systems and structure that you've put in place to have your particular business run successfully. So,
Love it. It's better to instill good habits than to fix old ones, right? Fix bad ones from before. What does your training look like typically with a new painter? Maybe they don't have any experience. What does that usually look like?
yeah, so typically it really just starts even in the preseason before we get rolling onto actual job sites, making sure that we have everybody out to a training. They're very familiar with all of the tools that we're going to be using, techniques, all that kind of stuff, and really just having them, in the field. And even before that, sending them all the different resources that they can kind of check out, different like videos or readings, just so that you can also gauge their engagement too in the preseason. Are they kind of taking the extra time to go watch those videos and learn those extra kind of tips and tricks before we get started? And then again, just making sure that we're with them at the starts of the season, making sure that everybody's on the same page and really just their confidence level is where we want them to be, where they feel like they can tackle the projects that we've
Wow. You're telling me you don't just randomly hire somebody off the road and just bring them to a job site, throw a brush in their hand, and then that's it? You're telling me you actually have a process to train them properly and you stand by them? Crazy how that
That's
works, right?
oh yeah.
I am going to do a 180 here in terms of like just finishing up. I am a little curious, Abby, if you have like an idea of the numbers, like in terms of like Facebook for yourself, like how much have you booked so far in Facebook, especially since we started?
Yeah, so I actually was just checking those stats. I'm upwards of 100,000 with you guys, like just
Let's go.
purely Facebook sales, which is super exciting. So yeah, nice to crack that number, and yeah, have a lot more kind of estimates and appointments set up. So looking forward to the rest of the season.
Nice. And for context, Abby started with us April 1st, not April
There
Fools,
you
but April 1st. So what is
go.
that? That's April 1st. So April, May, June, 3 months. So
Yeah.
booked 100K. Let's go. And what's that total revenue in terms of like the whole business? That's Facebook alone in 3 months. What about the whole
Yeah.
business?
To be honest, you guys have been carrying my business right now. Door to door is not going strong. I haven't put a team out, so I think we're around like 150, 155 or something like that for the season. But again, it's allowed me to step back and just have a more chill year, which I've really appreciated after 3 years of kind of pushing to get things done. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and especially when it comes to other people that's like on the fence, or they're like, oh, Facebook doesn't work, or other like online doesn't work, even though it's 2025 and here we are doing a podcast from all different locations. What would you say to
Yeah.
somebody that would be considering our services or even looking into like doing online marketing?
Yeah. I think I've seen crazy return, obviously. So I'm a big supporter of what you guys do. But really just to test it out, I have full confidence. You guys have done this yourselves. And so, why wouldn't it work? You guys, know exactly kind of what to look for in terms of, all the behind the scenes there that I'm not even going to go into because I don't know. But yeah, I would just try it out. It is really nice to kind of alleviate and add just another kind of avenue of lead generation to your business. So.
I love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate everybody's time, and thank you, Abbi, for showing up to this podcast. We really appreciate you. You're definitely our favorite client because every client is our favorite client. And thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you want to know what it might look like for us to work together, we'll have some links at the bottom of the podcast here. Thanks so much again, and we'll see you guys in the next. Bye-bye.
Cheers.